Tarkov has finally released into 1.0, and today we'll be looking at all the major changes that I've seen so far after fielding hundreds of questions yesterday on stream about what did and didn't come to the final version. Obviously, we need to talk about the story quests, but first some more of the basic but crucial things like the secure container, because there was lots of speculation prior to 1.0 as to what would happen, because we had some big changes with the hardcore and subsequently softcore wipe around what could go in there. Currently, as was widely expected, the secure container changes from hardcore have pretty much stayed the same, so you can't put any meds except for stims into your secure container, and you can't put any ammo in there either. The original restriction of having cash in there was relaxed during the softcore wipe, and that still seems to be the same now, so you can have a wallet with rubles, euros and dollars in your secure container that allows you to pay for things like the BTR or the car extract. I know some people don't really like this change, but I do think that the ammo one is really quite important. When you kill an enemy and all of their good ammo has to be on their physical body, it makes it a lot easier to get out of raid. I'm kind of 50-50 about the meds thing. Things like Salewas and Grizzlies could probably be in there, but the fact that actual painkillers with multiple uses, outside of stims of course, aren't allowed to be in there really helps to mitigate some of the pre-pain meta that we've seen in Tarkov previously. On that note, the special slots can still take a CMS kit, and it can actually now go in any of the 3 slots. Previously in the hardcore softcore wipe, we could only put it in slot number 1, but now you can put it in any of them. And this is actually huge for people who have a standard alpha container, because it saves 2 slots that normally would be used up by a CMS, because it's a pretty critical thing to be able to heal up a black lip. As for the hideout, it seems like the items required for this have gone back to normal, and there's been lots of speculation about whether you require found in raid or not, and BSG have gone for a kind of middle ground where some of the items need to be found in raid, usually the more critical ones, the ones that you don't need en masse, and some of the items you don't. So a couple of these things you're going to be able to buy from the flea market when you get there, and we'll talk about that in a moment because there's some flea market changes as well, but some of these things you're going to have to find yourself or get from a trader quest reward or something like that. It needs to have a find in raid tag on it. You can see, for example, the generator level 2 here. This requires one of the Bulbex cable cutters that does need to be found in raid. The relays don't need to be found in raid, so you can potentially buy these. A motor does need to be found in raid, and the wires don't need to be found in raid. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. You're just going to have to check to see which ones you need, which ones you don't need, because that's going to make a difference as to whether you put it in your secure container or not in some situations. So, the flea market. The flea market hasn't been removed early on in the wipe like we've seen in some of the previous patches. The flea market is actually here at level 15. But what's interesting is that the items are tiered by level, so you can't necessarily buy everything straight away. Different items have been placed at different levels, from level 15 all the way up to level 40 for some of them, and some of these critical items, for example hoses, are all the way up at level 30. I think this is quite mean in certain situations. You've got the measuring tape for security 1, which is also at level 30, so if you don't find one straight away, then you're kind of out of luck until you get to a very high level on the flea market. You can see this level on the item itself, so just double click on it and you'll be able to see exactly which level you're able to buy and sell this on the flea market. And this isn't an approach that we've seen by BSG before, so we're going to have to see how this works out, whether this allows a kind of hybrid approach to making the early wipe feel good. You have to find the stuff yourself, but you are allowed to buy some of the less critical items. We're just going to have to play it through and see how it goes in this particular patch. The other really big change before we move on to the questline stuff itself is the Interchange rework. We actually didn't know that this was coming with 1.0, and it was on the roadmap before for a previous patch, but it got removed, so there was speculation that it had been canned completely. However, it has come to the game with the release version, and the map is absolutely huge now. Most of the expansion is towards railway, so if you look out of the top floor of the mall, you can see over to where that kind of railway section used to be. You can now go beyond that up onto the mountain that you can see in the distance, and there's a whole set of things down there. There's a scav camp, there's the train tracks, there's a little walkway so that you can get over from one side to the other, and over on this side a new extract has been added for a green flare. This is actually one of the fairest extracts that I've ever seen be put into the game. If you go there, it's very well signposted. There's a little arrow on a board. You walk down, it shows you as well that you're going to have to use a flare to do it. There's another arrow, there's a little sign that says evac. It's pretty obvious, it's quite hard to mess up. So long as you fire the flare properly, your PMC's arm is going to come out and fire the flare up to the right height, then you should be able to get out. If you know the trick and you know the technique to firing the flare to get the angle right, so your PMC fires it vertically, then you should be able to get out every single time. Go and try it out in offline mode if you're struggling, and just keep doing it until eventually you get it. The best place to practice this is probably on ground zero, because it's a small map and you can get to the exfil pretty easily. There's a couple of other extract changes as well. Hole in fence has been removed, so the no backpack exit is gone, and that's because that wall has been pulled back considerably. So the road between Emacom and up to Power Station has been opened out you can walk around that wall now instead, and so hole in the wall is gone because that extract just isn't there, it's just open terrain. If you keep going, the entire section of the map there is covered by snipers. There's a huge sniper sign on the building, don't go over there. I even went relatively close and I got shot twice testing it in an offline raid, so do be careful and don't push your luck too much. If you carry on all the way up to Power Station, the vehicle extract has moved a little bit. It's still kind of in the same place, it's just a bit further down the road to account for the new boundary of the map itself. Something to point out is that vehicle extracts are now 20k. This is some kind of middle ground between hardcore and where it was before. So I think it used to cost about 8k, and hardcore is about 40k, and now it's 20, which is okay given that you can put the cash in your secure container. One more that's changed, which is quite niche, but it does show you a new area of the map, is the ScavCamp Co-op exfil. That one used to be above ground, over behind on that main road, but this has been moved underground. So there used to be the flooded section underneath Goshan. That is now open, so you can get down there, and apparently sometimes Tagilla spawns down there. But either way, the Scav Co-op extract is now down there instead of over by the edge of the map, because again, that doesn't exist anymore and there's a lot more space around there than there was before. Okay, so clearly one of the big changes in 1.0 is the story mode stuff, because that is the only thing Nikita has spoken about for about a year, telling us what is coming. The game is now roughly split into two pieces. You have the main story, which is categorized in its own section on the tasks bit in your character, and then you have the side quests, which is basically the original set of quests that we had. Doesn't really seem to be much difference there, and then you have operational tasks, which is the daily quests like we had previously as well. One of the curious things that I've noticed so far, and admittedly I haven't actually finished any of the full main story quest branches yet, but for all the subparts so far, we haven't received any XP, there's no trader rep, there's no money, there's no items, nothing like that. So you don't actually get given any rewards, which means that if you focus on the story missions exclusively, you actually don't go up levels that quickly, and you don't go up any trader rep either, so you don't really unlock anything new. This is quite a curious choice. So you have to do the old quests if you want to progress on ammo and items and trader levels, but if you do the main story, you get to find out kind of what happens. We'll have to see later if there's any rewards and stuff, but for now I haven't seen any. So when you first open the game, you choose your character, you choose your name, and you pick your faction, and then it throws you straight into a stripped back Ground Zero tutorial raid where you're playing on your own in offline. In this, you have to pick up a tape, which is different depending on whether you are USEC or Bear, and you basically just have to go through this kind of very linear version of Ground Zero, killing a few scavs, and it's trying to teach you the basics of vaulting and aiming and shooting and that kind of thing. For the power gamers out there who haven't managed to jump on yet, the most important part about this raid is that everything that you get in there, you get to keep. So any weapons or meds or ammo or anything like that, you get to keep through to your main character because you can only do the tutorial once. Some people have really scoured the map and they have found Aletics in there hidden under a tarp. Logical Solutions showed this on his Twitter page, so I'll show that here. But basically what you want to do is look out for early quest or hideout stuff to take out with you, like founding raid Salewers, tape measures, Tuchonkers, Iskras, noodles, gas analyzers, anything like that, as the map is really stocked with stuff, so don't leave until you're absolutely full to bursting. Once you're done with this, from here you open up to the traders. And originally, you only have Ragman and Therapist unlocked, and to get the other ones, you have to go through and do a task for each. It's relatively quick up until about the shoreline and reserve kind of territory, and most of the questions that I've had early on, if you're just starting out in 1.0, is how to actually visit the traders. How do you actually see the traders? They're not in raid, so to speak. So one of the quests asks you to see Skier, but don't look for him on customs. You have to just visit him through the menu. So if you go and click on the trader profile, you can press visit up in the top corner, and if you ever seem to be kind of stuck on the story mode quest, you're not sure what to do, typically that is the answer. Another very common question with Skier's questline later on is that he asks you to collect building materials, and you have to hand things in for the story mode quest. Anything where you have to hand something in for one of those story quest lines, you have to go and visit the trader in the menu and go and talk to them there and hand them in that menu rather than in the usual tasks menu that we're so used to. So when it opens up, Therapist basically wants to extort you for 250k to get access to streets. You don't have to do it straight away if you don't want to. It doesn't seem like you can get free access to streets otherwise. You can transit through to streets from Ground Zero, but you can't just click on the map until you pay her the money. Ragman wants you to extract from Interchange one time, and after that he gives you customs, and this is where you end up with Skier, where you have to talk to him through the menu, and Skier wants building materials. This is not things like tools, but it's like bolts, nuts, tape, that kind of stuff. I'm serious, so many people ask me how to hand in these building materials. If in doubt, go to the traders and visit them with that button. From here you get Mechanic. You have to survive on Factory with 2 weapons that are found in raid. I actually had those from previous raids, so I didn't need to pick them up. And bizarrely it says survive here, but I did a run through kind of by accident, and it actually ended up counting for me. So don't worry about getting the XP or waiting 7 minutes, you can just go to the nearest exit and just leave. Now once you've opened up Shoreline through these quests so far, you have to figure out where the terminal extract is, because that is where you're supposed to leave. That's like the predestined point for PMCs to get out of Tarkov. but it is now guarded, so you have to be a little bit careful. And I think that we need to think broadly as a player base a bit more about the intentionality that Nikita has on the quests. We can't just be blindly running into these places. So many people came into my chat saying they'd been shot by the guards over at Terminal and they weren't really sure where to go. A lot of this harkens back to the Targrad tales to me about the branching storyline, about being very deliberate about our actions. So the Terminal extract is where you think it should be. It's on Shoreline. It is where the raid series happens. If you haven't watched that, you should probably go and see that. And what I did was I went from road to customs and walked all the way down because that was the safest way. And what you do is you basically get to that sniper tower, and once you go and see that extract, a little thing pops up, and you get the next piece where you have to somehow speak to the gate guards or whatever, and there's a little radio comms at the bottom of that sniper tower, and you can talk to them and they tell you to go away. I don't know how close you can get because I didn't actually get that far in, and there is technically still an extract in that corner, but I know some people have been shot by the guards over there, so just be careful. Around this time, you get the second story quest, which is about the crashed plane on Woods. And where a lot of people are getting stuck on this as well is to learn more about the fallen plane. So once you've already visited it, then you have to learn more. And this basically entails going and speaking to Prapor again in the menu. So as I said before, if in doubt, go and speak to the traders in that particular menu. And he wants to get a USB drive. The therapist wants to extort you out of money to give you the information from her informant as to where the USB drive is, because we know it's around some kind of SUV. You can actually go and do this quest without paying therapist. You don't need to pay her $2,000. And the SUV in question is the one by the tunnel on Shoreline. It's on the back left tyre and it is quite hard to see. I did 2 loops, I think, and didn't see it. It's like right underneath the tyre, so you have to really, really look carefully. At some point along the way, you will end up asking pretty much all of the traders how to escape from Tarkov, and none of them can tell you. None of them will help. And this fails the main storyline quest for you, and I think that this is deliberate. I think the failure is intentional because it means that none of the traders know how to get you out of Tarkov or are unwilling to help you get out of Tarkov, and you're going to have to figure it out another way. It's about where I'm up to in the story at the moment. I have to go back and get the black box from the crashed plane and leave it at Scav Island on Shoreline, but I've been spending a bit more of my time doing the normal missions because I want to level up a bit and get to level 2 traders, which using the story mode ones doesn't seem like you can. So outside of this, it looks like we've had about 6 guns added to the game. There might be more hidden ones, but these are the ones that I could see so far. Starting with the AS Val Mod 4, which looks really tasty. I can't imagine this is going to be that much different to the SR3M. Most of these guns are ruled by their overheating capacity, so if this one heats up a little bit less, then maybe that would be quite good, but I'm not sure yet because I haven't actually really used it, and these guns all have pretty low recoil anyway. We have the M16A1 and M16A2. The major difference being between these two is that the A1 can do full auto, whereas the M16A2 is only semi or burst. It looks like you can fully metrify this thing if you want to, as it's compatible with pretty much all of the M4 parts. Then we have the Custom Guns NL545 in 2 different colors, and this is interesting because it is the first rifle that we've seen in the game which has an 800 RPM for 545, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of like a 545 M4. This thing takes a lot of AR-15 style parts as well, things like the G-lock, so it can also become a bit of a monster. One interesting thing about it is it doesn't look like it can take the 60 rounder for 545. So the 45s are the best you can do, and this is one limitation that you're going to have to take if you want the 800 RPM. Next we have the AK-308, which might well be a bit of a beast because this thing is in full auto at 700 RPM. I'm actually quite surprised as to how much ergonomics this gun has when you try to mod it out, and even with the suppressor it has 53 ergonomics. It starts off with a 20 round magazine and can be upgraded to the 24 rounder, but the recoil at 95 is still probably a bit high. There really aren't that many parts to it, so you can't do a great deal. Handguard and the stock is the main parts. This thing is chambered in 7.62 by 51, so it can technically fire M61 or M80, and it's probably going to be quite fearsome. Next we have the Marlin MXLR .308 ME lever action rifle, which we've been waiting for a really long time. Now this thing is super cool. Actually comes with quite a few different additions that you can put on, and you can put on some assault scopes up to about the Alcan Spectre or the Valde. But the most interesting thing about the Marlin MXLR, firstly, even though it says .308, this actually means .308, so you can't use 7.62 by 51 in here, and they've added a new ammo class to be able to use it with this particular rifle. The second part is that it is categorized as a bolt action rifle, and which means I think you're going to be able to use it for Shooterborn in Heaven. We'll have to see if that actually comes true. I hope that that's the case. This would make Shooterborn in Heaven so much more fun to be able to use this gun instead, because the racking speed is probably going to be the highest of any of these guns by far as I can tell. But let's hold our judgment for the time being. Either way, you can now cosplay as a cowboy in this game. Hunt Showdown players rejoice. The final weapon here is the TKPD. This is some kind of SVD-esque thing, and it's got its own special ammo, 9.3 by 64 as well. This looks like a bit of a hefty beast, Bit like the SVD, it's not that much you can do with it really. You can give it a shorter barrel and some different stocks, but it kind of is just what it is. The description on this guy, it says Dragunov heavy support carbine, modernized SVDK, chambered in 9.3x64, noted for its high accuracy and effectively suppresses targets at medium ranges. So this is another alternative, I guess, to the SVD. I don't know when you get it exactly. It looks like you get it on prep or after a task, and it's barter only. So I don't think we're going to be getting it anytime soon on PvP, but who knows, maybe it will be available on the Flea. Two other honorable mentions is the SVT40. I'm sure there's going to be more of these things, but these are only the ones that I've seen so far. So the SVT40 previously was only able to take the PU scope, but now you can add a rail that allows you to take any of the assault scopes or red dots as well. This is a huge upgrade for the SVT, and this gun is absolutely insane. It was mainly hampered by the fact that you basically had to use either iron sights or the PU scope from the Mosin. If you can use the rest of the sights in Tarkov, that's a huge buff. To mention here, given that I put an Alcan on this in the first place, you can now add this little thing, the DR mounting plate for Trigicon, and onto that you can now add these new little sights here, the Trigicon SRO Reflex, or the Justice, which came from the Arena Battle Pass, or the RMR. So you can stick any of those on top of the Alcan now, so you don't have to use the little backup iron sight. The other one that I've only played around with a little bit for now is the MDR. The MDR now has a few different parts. You can put on some really short handguards instead. Don't know why you'd want to do this, but you can. And you can also change the barrel between the 16-inch and the 20-inch as well. Not that I think there's a huge advantage in doing this, but it's just kind of interesting that they're adding some new parts to some of these older weapons. So there you have it. I'm going to publish this video, and then I'm going to get back to being live so that we can learn more about what's going on in 1.0. As usual, big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.